Hey everyone, welcome to the NFL edition of the Daily Fantasy Flex podcast for January 3rd, 2017, brought to you by FantasyLabs. I'm Matthew Freedman, the editor-in-chief. I'm joined by podcast regulars Adam Levitan and Peter Jennings on Twitter at Adam Levitan and CSURAM88. And also joining the show is David Kitchen at Soccer Dave. He's the CEO of Fantasy Insiders and the host of the Insider Sirius XM Fantasy Show, as well as the Swolecast. You might remember him from his appearance on the Week 12 podcast, the one when Pete repeatedly insulted Evan Silva. David, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm glad I got invited back for, after the Matt Barkley incident where you guys tried to ruin my brand. It actually backfired on you, and so therefore I had to come back and totally redeem myself in a negative way.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the show. How was the holiday season and then also Week 17?
Holiday season was great as far as getting to play with my daughters. Was terrible as far as sickness goes. When you have young kids, something that is not really stressed enough is that you get sick all the time because they get sick all the time. So yeah, it was just one sickness after the other. I'm on the upswing, though. Week 17 was good. Anytime you profit with somebody in your lineup that is almost 10K and gets hurt on the second series, and you have 100% of him in your cash games, talking about David Johnson, you feel pretty good about the week. So it was a pretty solid week. I thought it had the potential to be really solid if David Johnson would have gotten those 155 receiving yards that we hoped he was going after.
Levitan and Pete, how about you guys?
Go ahead, Pete.
Well, I had David Johnson in cash, but it turned out to be one of my best weeks. It was my second best week of the entire season, thanks to Evan Silva being so strong on Burkhead on the Swolecast. So Silva got me on that one, convinced me, which was great. Silva the GOAT. And yeah, it was a great week. Had a sweat in the Millionaire Maker. Actually got second in the 5-can FanDuel with David Johnson. And yeah, really nice to have a huge weekend to start the year on January 1st. Definitely take some of the pressure off of the season and everything going forward.
Levitan.
Week 17 was awesome. The mini slates were amazing. The 1 p.m. and the 4 p.m. only just seemed like there was really only one way to go on both of those, and it happened to work out really well. So that was awesome. And yeah, the David Johnson thing, really glad he's okay. But yeah, that really sucked. And I'm glad we have Kitchen here because we do have kind of a Kitchen and cash situation. We have a Connor Cook in cash option. We have a Brock in cash option. We have a Matt Moore in cash option. We have a lot of options here for Kitchen to choose from. It's like a potpourri of shit quarterbacks.
That's fantastic. I really look forward to hearing which of those quarterbacks David is 100% on in cash. Levitan, I'm glad that you had such a good week in general because Week 17 really was very sort of hashtag preseason. But in terms of skill game propositions, one of us was all-time bad or almost all-time bad. And Adam, would you like to guess who that was?
What was I so wrong about? I want to hear this.
Okay, well, you were 5-15, and specifically, you were 2-10 against Pete. And very specifically, you were 0-6 when you faded Tyreek Hill.
Oh, yeah.
So another return touchdown. How many return touchdowns is this dude going to get? He's I think we cracked the code, though, honestly. Friend of the podcast, Drew Dingmeyer, pointed out that this Dave Tobe, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, is the special teams coach of the Chiefs, who was also the special teams coach of the Bears when Devin Hester was on this similar run. So maybe the credit goes to Dave Tobe and not Ty Fluke.
No, absolutely not. He has 9 other touchdowns outside of those return touchdowns. It's a fluke how he scores the touchdowns in any given week, but that he actually scores a touchdown isn't a fluke, if that makes sense.
Well, it makes sense. I just think when a guy is going to touch the ball 4 times and he costs $5.5K on DraftKings, it's an atrocious play. But good luck to everybody who's going to keep doing it.
Yeah, he had 7 targets, 5 catches, scored his 12th touchdown of the year, which is more touchdowns than pretty much every other position player. Yet Adam refuses to talk about him other than Ty. He put himself in a corner yet again. He loves to fade Odell Beckham, who's one of the most talented athletes in the NFL. Now he's fading Tyreek Hill every single week. And probably the most glorious moment amidst even winning a lot of money was when he scored at least 100 mentions, just bashing at him.
All right. So anyway, all of that means that Pete, you went 17-7 last week, one of the best weeks of the year for anyone. So you are now 115 and 118. So close to 500. Adam is 97 and 102. So under 500 for the first time all season. Our guests are 85 and 96, which means that I am a gloatingly opportunistic 73 and 54. So
can we take a look here at just the stats? We have enough of a sample size here. It's very clear. Adam and I generously giving equity back and forth.
Totally.
And then Freedman just sitting there only taking super plus EV skill game props.
Totally.
What do you have to say for yourself, Freedman?
Hey, that's what I do. I'm just like the cop at the intersection who's just sort of like pointing to people, telling them to go. And in the meantime, I'm just sort of like taking money from their pockets as they're driving by. The kitchen in week 12, you were 12-5. You were the only person above 500. Literally every time all three of us went against you, we lost. So other than seeing interception-laden brilliance in Matt Barkley before any of us did, what is your skill game prop secret to success?
The skill game prop secret to success is just rely on the inner hot takeness that I have.
That's good. So moving forward, we have the smaller slate, 4-game slate in the playoffs. How do you approach smaller slates, and does your approach change any throughout this process?
Yeah, I think that when you look at like the slate, especially on DraftKings, the way they have like priced it, it's kind of gross. Like it is. It's kind of gross with these 4 games. So for cash games, I'm still haven't really decided what I was going to do. For GPPs, I do think there are some interesting options, but a lot of it comes down to the studs. Like, which of the studs are you going to pay for this week? I know that Levitan's probably all in on an Odell against this weak Green Bay secondary, especially after he got some R&R in Miami. But that's kind of where I'm at right now, is trying to decide on what studs you want to pay up for. Obviously, Pittsburgh has got the highest team total of the week, but we've also seen like Green Bay, their passing game be pretty effective. So be interested to see what happens with Randall Cobb. That's kind of the news I'm looking for right now. But from like a football perspective, these games are gross. From a fantasy perspective, I don't know if the games are any better, but we're still going to play.
Yeah, I mean, so we're still going to play. Levitan and Pete, are you guys playing less action, pulling back, and then are you changing the proportion in which you're playing cash games versus GPPs given the smaller sample size?
Yeah, for me, I think you can look at a slate and think, where can people make mistakes, right? Like, where can our opponents mess up? And it's I'm pretty sure everybody, if you're playing cash, is going to play either Ben or Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, nobody else is playing any one of those two guys. So it's kind of hard to make a mistake there. I assume everybody's playing Le'Veon Bell and cash, and then one of Zenner, or I don't know, we'll see what else happens. But, one of Zenner or somebody else that's going to get volume. I think the place where people could make mistakes and there's the most volatility is at wide receiver. So it really comes down to how confident you are at wide receiver, if you're going to play a lot of cash or not. I haven't really decided yet, but yeah, I think I'll probably play a higher percentage of my allocation in tournaments this week than usual, I'd say.
I mean, Pete, you play small slates all the time. Like, how do you approach smaller slates in comparison to the bigger slates?
Just fire it up, just hope you get a lot of action and just fire away. I mean, what other answer do you expect from me?
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I definitely am going to play a lot of cash games. Hope that people make mistakes. The really small slates, like the Saturday only, is pretty ugly. So I'm dialing back and not posting like 10Ks and stuff like that for the slates where you can't spend the money. But the full weekend slate, I still think there's a bit of an edge, especially at certain positions. And Adam, you mentioned everyone's going to play Ben or Roethlisberger. I guarantee, at least 10% of the field, 15% of the field is going to play one of these, Matt Moore or Osweiler or Connor Cook or whoever. People will
in tournaments.
Not even. I've
No,
seen
in
it
cash.
Yeah.
Because of these high price guys, they're going to want to try to save like do a 2v2 and play one of these cheap quarterbacks, and it's just not necessary, especially on DK.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll play. The one thing I haven't really decided on tournaments. I was really enjoying playing a lot of teams in tournaments in the regular season. I might not do the same here if I only think there's a couple good plays. So if I do dial back the action, it would be in tournaments more than anything, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess it helps that there's no Tyreek Hill this week, so limited incentive.
When the Chiefs are back on the slate next week, oh baby, 100% Tyreek and the Chiefs D.
All right, well, let's get into it. We're focusing on roster construction and game theory. For more content on the slate, check out our NFL dashboard with positional breakdowns and preview matchups out by Thursday. David, let's start with you. You mentioned a number of players there, but who are your potential chalk locks right now, the guys you're good with locking into your cash game core as you're starting to build lineups?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Le'Veon Bell and Zach Zenner, like Levitan said. Wide receiver still kind of up in the air. You have some options there for Miami that are priced down that you're looking at against Pittsburgh that could get like PPR points. You've got guys like Sterling Shepard. I'm looking probably at like Devontae Adams as being the core guy in my lineup. And then the position that's really gross is tight end. Like it's really gross, and I'm actually looking at CJ Fedorowicz as a core play tight end. Like he hasn't really he didn't produce last week, but he still hasn't got, I think, less than 7 targets the past 5 or 6 weeks. So he's getting the volume, and that's really what you're looking for, because other than him, like Jimmy Graham, I don't know who you're going with at tight end unless you want to gamble on Jared Cook.
Levitan?
Yeah, I actually think Jared Cook will end up being really popular. I think people are going to get on him due to a matchup against a Giants team that I think has improved somewhat against the tight end, but still struggles. And Jared Cook's actually had a really big role over the last few weeks. And as we've seen Aaron Rodgers' numbers spike, Jared Cook's numbers have spiked. So I think Jared Cook will end up being pretty popular considering he's the cheapest. I do think Fedorowicz gets a boost with Brock back starting. I mean, Brock is just so scared to push the ball down the field. And although Savage was for sure #bad, and I certainly overrated him, he was at least more aggressive than Brock. So I think CJ and Brock makes sense. But yeah, I mean, to me, I think that for sure the most popular plays are Rodgers and Ben at quarterback, Le'Veon and Zenner at running back, and Odell and Antonio Brown at wide receiver, and obviously you can't play all 4 of those guys or all 5 of those guys in the same lineup. But I think that will be pretty much where most of the ownership ends up lying.
Yeah, I think the killer bees are going to be the chalk. I mean, I think that's the way to go. I think Antonio is definitely the best receiver option. I know you can make a case for Beckham and Jordy Nelson, but give me Antonio Brown, give me the killer bees at home against this Miami team that should be pretty putrid on offense as well, which should allow Pittsburgh to have the ball. And, if we're watching them play, I mean, I remember Christmas Eve was a disaster, but Christmas Day, just glorious watching the killer bees destroy. So I expect a similar performance here at home versus Miami from them. And I think Zenner's the other guy who's really, really going to be chalky based on the savings that he provides.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on Jay Ajayi? It's not a great matchup, but he is a guy who gets regular touches each week. He does have a lot of upside. I don't know if that's really what you're looking for in cash games, but any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I would say I haven't played Ajayi, I don't think, at all this year, or maybe, I think probably not at all. They seem to like him so much to the point where they're willing to feed him. The question is, can they stay in the game to feed him? Because we've seen them use Damian Williams a little bit on third downs. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just he's 6,800, right? So, like, if you're playing Ben, Le'Veon, Brown, I don't really know how you're also playing Ajayi unless you're, like, totally punting. And I haven't played around with it. But, like, if you totally punt, like, I don't know, maybe, like, I don't even know, Seth Roberts, or if Cobb is out, Allison or something, maybe you could do that. But right now, I don't know. I think people are maybe more intrigued by Lamar Miller than Jay Ajayi. I mean, Lamar Miller is a home favorite and supposedly getting healthy. And when he's been a home favorite and healthy, he's actually smashed pretty well this year. So I think Ajayi and Lamar Miller are certainly volume guys you could play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played Ajayi all year, so that's probably been a mistake overall, but I just don't see myself rostering him that much unless it's a tournament spot. I think you have to lock in Bell and center and cash.
Yeah.
The problem is if you try to lock in Lamar Miller with Le'Veon Bell and Zach Zinner and go with like a 3 running back set with either Cook or Fedorowicz at tight end and Big Ben or Aaron Rodgers, and just like whatever defense you choose, you're left with like 4,800 to 4,600 per player for those 3 wide receiver spots, which just does not leave you any room at all, especially to roster any of those studs. So I think you kind of have to go cheap in that flex spot with probably with either a wide receiver or another tight end using Fedorowicz and Cook possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ajayi is in a weird salary spot, but I think that's going to make his ownership really low, especially for tournaments. But let's talk about some of the guys we might be looking to fade here. And, someone who's coming to mind is Russell Wilson, who is in a pretty decent spot at home against a Detroit defense that is not good. But is he a guy that you guys are looking to fade just kind of based on the salaries and where we are?
Yeah, I only have Russ Wilson on DK at 9 to 12% ownership right now. I have Ben at 31 to 40 and Rodgers at 26 to 30. So I don't know if I'd call it a fade necessarily. Like, I think Russ Wilson, if you like him, you can play him. He's been like somewhat low floor or too low floor for me at times. And I know he had that one huge game against Arizona. I don't know. You like him more than Eli Rogers if you're looking to pivot?
More than Eli Manning?
I mean, Eli Manning.
I don't know. Pete, David?
I like Eli Manning a lot as a tournament play. I think the Giants, we'll talk about them later, are in a really good position here relatively. I think Russell Wilson's a good tournament play, but yeah, I think the guys I'm more likely to fade just overall are going to be all the cheap quarterbacks in that roster construction. So,
what about if Zenner is really going to be like 40%? What do you think about fading him in tournaments? Because I mean, he's at Seattle, and we've seen Detroit have like no run game. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, I think that's totally reasonable to fade him. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In tournaments, I think in cash, obviously it's a little bit different ball game, but in tournaments, I don't mind playing Eli and Russell Wilson. I probably think they're probably the best options, honestly, when you factor in the ownership. Maybe Stafford too, but the quarterbacks I'm going to be fading are probably the cheap guys.
Yeah, the thing with Eli is that, again, that Packers secondary is – I mean, they had like 2 guys go out on one play, and they are just very hurt. So I think Eli with Odell, with Sterling Shepard, could be a pretty good tournament play. Agree.
Let's talk a little bit about stacks. And so we just mentioned Russell Wilson, but one guy we haven't mentioned yet who has a pretty good matchup is Doug Baldwin. Any thoughts on him, stacking him with Wilson, or any of the other potential stacks out there, Pete?
Yeah, I love it. I think Russ Wilson, Doug Baldwin, and then maybe Golden Tate or, I don't know. Is Marvin Jones, is he going to be all right now? I mean, I know, didn't he have a concussion at the end of the game?
I haven't seen anything on that. I mean, we'll know a lot more tomorrow when there's the first official practice of the week.
Right. Well, I do think a game stack with Russ Wilson and Baldwin and someone from Detroit, maybe it's Ebron, makes sense just because you're going to get a game stack there so much lower owned than these other spots. So I do like that. I do think Jimmy Graham will be interesting as well this week. I wonder what his ownership will be just because everyone's going to try to jam another stud. So I imagine it'll be relatively low. The argument against that, though, like Kitchen mentioned, is that it's really tough at tight end. There's no one that really stands out. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do in cash, but for tournaments, I definitely like the Russ Wilson, Graham, Baldwin running it back with a Detroit receiver or 2.
David, stacks that you like?
As far as like the number one, the chalkiest stack, it's just going to be Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers with Jordy and really you pick just 2 out of the 3 wide receivers, or 4 if you count Cooks, 5 if you count Montgomery. But keep in mind, this is only a 4-game slate. So really, one contrarian play can make or break your tournament team. You don't have to go contrarian at every single spot. You can take your free plays and then go on from there. But I already mentioned Eli, the Giants stack, and on the opposite side of that, I'll go with Green Bay kind of being the chalky stack. And if you want to go contrarian other than those plays, you do it with the non-Green Bay guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think every time the Steelers have been at home this year, I've played Ben, Le'Veon, and Antonio Brown. So that's for sure the chalk stack that I'm playing, no doubt about it. And I think, one of the most popular stacks this week will be Ben, Antonio, Le'Veon, and Eli Rogers for like a 4. I believe Kitchen calls it an onslaught. Is that correct, Kitchen?
The onslaught, yeah, where you have 4 guys from the same team, and you definitely are going to have that with the 4-game slate this weekend.
So you can play the onslaught with Eli Rogers on the Steelers, and then is DK? Can you play 5 guys from the same team? I know on FanDuel you can only play 4.
I think you can play 5 guys. You have to have players from 3 different teams.
Yeah, so you could go onslaught with Steelers D too, five man onslaught, and we'll see what happens with Darius Green too. We haven't mentioned him yet, but if he gets cleared from the concussion protocol, I could see him being very popular.
He's got to retire, man.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I was going to bring up is the onslaught with Darius Green. I definitely think that makes sense. Tight end is really tough, but yeah, the chalk is definitely going to be the killer bees. I mean, I don't see how that's not the most heavily owned combination of stacks. I do like Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams to save. I don't mind, Aaron Rodgers to Jordy Nelson as another chalk stack, but I definitely prefer the Steelers in this spot by quite a bit.
Kitchen, you mentioned if you want to go contrarian, you go with some of the other guys, some of the non-Green Bay players. Any thoughts on some of those disgusting quarterbacks like an Osweiler to Hopkins or Fuller type of stack, or anything else you got up that sleeve of yours?
I mean, if anything, I think I'd probably go with the more stack with Miami, just because you've got those receivers there that are going to catch a lot of passes, and you've got guys like the deep threats with Kenny Stills, Devontae Parker, and Jarvis Landry. That would be kind of the ugly stack that I would go with if I had something, just because that they can air it out. Like Brock Osweiler just does not interest me at all. That game just really is going to be an ugly game. Not a lot of points going to be scored in that game. So I'm going to try to fade that as much as possible as far as stacks go.
Let Freedman, this is the point of the show where you give your take on the rookie. Let's hear the Connor Cook scouting report.
There's really nothing special to say. He was pretty much a subpar quarterback. He never had a season above 60% completion percentage, which in college is just sort of like the death knell. Like, if you don't hit 60% in college, I don't think you really deserve to be in the NFL. He never had even 30 touchdowns passing in a season, which isn't the worst thing ever, but it's not good either. So you have a rookie starting his first game in the playoffs on the road. I mean, they're dead.
Yeah. I guess I don't watch a lot of college football, but what would his numbers have been if he had played in the Pac-12 or whatever they call it now, Pac-10 or Pac-15 or whatever?
So you mean what would the inflation have been?
Yeah, because I mean, it's hard to bang on a dude for his numbers in the Big Ten, right? Because I don't know.
Sure. So it is a run heavy and defense heavy conference. So I think you maybe could equate him to someone like Matt Barkley, maybe, which I think makes sense. Like they were drafted in the same draft range. That's the type of guy that he is.
Yeah.
You know who his favorite target was in college? Pete, you know this?
Lippett?
Yeah.
Good.
Who got destroyed by Michael Floyd in that game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cornerback for the Dolphins.
Right.
Yeah, I like Lippett in college. I played him in some DFS, but yeah, I don't think I ever touched Connor Cook, ever.
I did.
So, you touched Connor Cook? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Target those SMU games and stuff like that, bro.
There were a few slates where you had to play guys like Connor Cook.
Yeah, no, I'm probably lying and saying that I never played him, but I honestly don't remember ever rostering Connor Cook. But
it's just such a hard spot for him, right? Like here, your 4th-round rookie, your first career start's going to be on the road in the playoffs in Houston, who has been playing really good defense. Just such a hard spot, So it's hard for me. Like Pete's boy, Amari Cooper, is like insanely cheap. Like he's like 5,200 or something. It's just hard for me to pull the trigger there.
One guy we haven't mentioned yet is Ty Montgomery. Obviously, like a few games ago, outrageous performance, and then really nothing, very disappointing recently. Any thoughts on him?
He's got to get out of the doghouse.
Yeah.
He missed the that one pass and didn't play for the rest of the first half. Then came out the second half. But he's definitely, like, you talk about the onslaught, the Packers onslaught with Aaron Rodgers could definitely be something, especially if you fade Le'Veon Bell and play a Packers onslaught. It gives you a lot of room to go mid-range to a little bit upper range with those other salaries. I like Tom Montgomery as a tournament play.
Yeah. Guys, let's get to the bold calls segment of the show. And Pete, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'll say the Giants win. A real life bold call. I like this Giants team, kind of reminiscent of their teams that won the Super Bowl. Great defense, and I think that they can really make this game competitive. So I like the Giants to win. Obviously, that's very bold. Gun to my head, I have to choose a winner. I'm taking Green Bay, but to be bold, I'll say the Giants. And in terms of a DFS call, I don't really feel. I mean, I just feel like this is a chalky week. I mean, I guess my bold call would be like, don't play too much Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that'd be my boldest call, but that feels really risky. I mean, is it bold to say I prefer Big Ben by a lot over Aaron Rodgers?
I prefer Big Ben for sure too.
Yeah, so I don't have that. I mean, I want to play the killer bees. That's what I know in terms of DFS at this point.
Okay. Kitchen, let's go with you.
I mean, the bold call would be, I guess, Detroit. I think Detroit gives Seattle a game. It doesn't win. I'd agree that these 4 games are gross, but I think that Detroit covers, and it's closer than the expert thinks. As far as bold call for daily fantasy purposes, I'm looking at these just guys that could catch like 3 passes but have 80 yards and a touchdown, the deep threat guys. So I mentioned Kenny Stills earlier, and on the opposite side, you saw last week Tony Lippett get targeted by Tom Brady, and I think per the matchups tool on FantasyLabs, he gets none other than Kobe Hamilton. So that's a pretty bold call as far as on the outside, as far as a deep threat goes. So whoever plays that outside slot other than Antonio Brown and Eli Rogers for the Steelers, I like them as a potentially bold call in this game.
Nice. Levitan.
Yeah, I'm going to build on what Kitchen said, but be more of a man about it. Lions go into Seattle and get the outright. I think this is –
Golden Tate narrative? Is that what it is?
I think that Detroit matches up better than they would have with some of the more potent offensive teams. Like, they really have no shot against Green Bay. I don't think Detroit has any chance against Atlanta, but this Seattle team has been so up and down. We've seen them get run on recently. We've seen them get thrown on, especially out of the slot recently. So I'm going to stick with that game too for DFS. On the other side, we've seen since Tyler Lockett's injury, Paul Richardson has been playing 40, 50 snaps a game. He has a shot here, especially if Slay. I don't know what Slay's going to do. He's probably not going to go inside on Doug Baldwin, but we'll see. Either way, I'm not like overly petrified of Slay. I think Paul Richardson at least has a chance to get deep, and I think he's 3,400 on DK. So like these are kind of the guys that I think are worth shots in tournaments on DK. Is like, hey, he's 3,500. He might get like 2 bombs in this game. If he catches them, it's just smash fest. Like we're winning all the money, So I think Paul Richardson is worth a shot at least.
I like that. Guys, it's time for the skill game proposition segment of the show. Let's put some 6-packs of Coors Light in play, and I'll be generous. I'll just say I'll take OBJ. You take whoever you want, which I know means Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Okay, done.
Yeah,
yep,
done.
across the board.
Yeah. No, Kitchen is an OBJ apologist. Go ahead, Kitchen.
You're on OBJ. I'd love to double down on this.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown twice. Come on.
Yeah, I'll take Odell Beckham.
Yeah. All right, I'll go double too.
Okay, 2-on-2 there. All right.
That's just glorious right there.
All right. So that was a little bit of equity going your way. You guys can start to do what you do, and then I'll just siphon off of you as you roll along.
I mean, if anybody wants Rodgers over Ben, I'll take Ben.
Yeah, I'd do the same.
Yeah, I'll take Big Ben.
I'll even give points. I'll give Rodgers 2 DraftKings points versus Ben.
All right. I'll do that. Levitan, you willing to give the points?
Sure. Why not?
Kitchen, you'll give points?
Nah, I'm not going to give points. I like Big Ben this week. He's a pretty safe play.
All right. So I'm on you two. Pete.
I'll take let me see here. What else am I confident in?
I'll take Ty Montgomery over Jay Ajayi if anyone wants that.
I'll go with Ajayi. I think his workload is more secure.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Ajayi.
All right, I'll take Montgomery with the Giants defense is good. I'm gonna sit that one out.
We haven't talked about seriously, what were the Giants doing? Like, can we I know Pete, you had some cousins. I thought that some Redskins were good plays. Like, why did the Giants play all their guys?
Because they hate the Redskins and they smashed Kirk Cousins.
No, come on, that is not it.
Yeah,
what do you mean it's not it?
Was that like good old fashioned divisional spite?
You don't spite
yeah,
him.
You do.
I think it is.
It's a chance to knock him out. Are you kidding me? You know how much the Giants fans love that?
Would you rather go into the first round of playoffs like on a high, knocking off the team, going and on a boat, returning, or would you like to get run out of the building?
Levitan picking up the boat, trying to tease Levitan.
But wait, what would you be saying if Odell Beckham snapped his leg in Week 17? Then it would be, what are the Giants doing? They're trying to play for spite, and then Odell Beckham snaps his leg.
I'm not saying it was a smart move, but you ask why they were doing it. That's definitely why they were doing it. They wanted to keep Washington out of the playoffs.
I think New Yorkers could appreciate playing for spite. That's just me, though.
It clearly was a spite move. How is it not a spite move?
It just seems so childish and petulant. These guys aren't I don't think they care that much about the Redskins. Like, come on.
Dude, that division rivals is like all these guys. That's one of the big things.
They care about their checks and their cars, man. They're not worried about
the players, but not the front office and the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
they wanted to give them the beatdown, Like they wanted to. Why else would they keep their guys in the whole time?
Yeah, well, in OBJ with his like Josh Norman feud, I'm sure he wanted to be out there.
Oh yeah.
When do you think they booked that boat? Before they won the game or after? Like, did they book the private jet and the boat?
I want to hear Kitchen's thoughts on this because he's brought it up. He clearly has a take on the boat.
No, I think it's funny when this stuff happens because everyone just gets their panties in a wad about it. And also I think from the other point of things, as far as what are they thinking? Like knowing that, or do they just not care? Do they just not care about?
I don't think they were thinking that much before they.
Right. Yeah, it's just entertaining. It just adds to the storyline that is this week. So we needed to spice up these boring matchups a little bit. This definitely, like when you saw the picture of Odell on the boat without a shirt
and the Timberlands
on, like
that was the best.
You knew that it was going to add some spice to this week. So
he didn't even bring shorts and sandals. He's wearing pants and Timberlands.
He's wearing his cut up jeans and the Timberlands.
But at least he waited until after New Year's to party it up and like Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Oh, Travis Kelce.
I actually thought about that with Kelce before the game last week, but the week before there were pictures of him partying in Kansas City at like 1:00 in the morning. He just went out and smashed the next day.
Yeah, he was definitely partying before the Denver game.
Right.
There's a lot of intel on that one. So I thought he was immune. I mean, maybe that was his pregame ritual. Some guys like to have a good, carbohydrate meal or whatever. They load up and get ready. I mean, Kelce just wants to have fucking 20 drinks,
Yeah. No, on the Odell thing, I know everybody wants me to rip him. I really don't have a huge problem with it. Like your time is your time. I just think if I was preparing for like the biggest exam of my year for my job, like I would be more focused than at live with Justin Bieber until 2:00 in the morning. But he's such a freak athlete. He could come out and smash and have a great game. I don't have a huge problem with it.
Oh, calm down, Levitan.
That was not the take I was expecting from Levitan. I was expecting.
No, I don't want to rip him for that, man. I mean, it's a day off. Whatever.
All right. I'll tell you guys someone that I'm long on that we didn't even bring up at all in this pod so far. I'll take some Sterling Shepard exposure versus someone. I think Sterling Shepard's a nice sneaky play.
I'll take Jarvis Landry against Sterling Shepard.
What's the price difference there, buddy?
It's 51 versus 48.
All right, fine. Done.
Yeah, I'll doubling up on Jarvis Landry as well.
Yeah, seems like the chalk way to go.
I'll take Jarvis.
Where would you rank Matt Moore versus Connor Cook and Brock? Is Matt Moore definitely
so much better?
Right.
So much better. I think he's the one guy I would play out of those three. I think I will have some Matt Moore, Devontae Parker, Matt Moore, Jarvis Landry, running it back with AB and Le'Veon Bell, and just hoping that in garbage time he just starts lighting it up. I also think Pittsburgh's defense is worse, right? Well, you guys think Pittsburgh's D is worse than the other in Oakland and Houston? Definitely worse than Houston. Maybe not worse.
Yeah, I don't think worse than Oakland, but yeah, definitely worse than Houston.
I'll go Fedorowicz over Jared Cook if anyone wants that one.
I'll give you some action there. Why not?
I'll go the Fedorowicz side with Kitchen.
That's fine. Double it up.
We're going to sit that one out.
Of course you are, Freedman.
You want to give me Jimmy Graham against Sterling Shepard?
Sure. Detroit. I mean, Detroit versus the tight end.
You want Jimmy Graham?
I want Jimmy Graham. I think it's a pretty good spot for Jimmy Graham. It's just really awkward.
I like Jimmy Graham too,
it's really awkward to fit him at 5,300.
Yeah.
Probably a really good tournament play, honestly.
Yeah. I think there's some merit to like with Lockett out, Graham's role expanding,
How about this? I'll give you an interesting one, which I think is pretty close. I'll take Sterling Shepard. I'll keep going in on him. I'll take him versus Graham, but I also get him versus Richardson versus you. So you have Richardson and Graham versus Shepard.
That's fine. I mean, it's only going to take one play. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to do like one extreme hot take that I'm pretty sure I'll get all three of you guys in on. I'm a big fan since last year, DFS, since preseason. I have pretty much drafted him in all my leagues as a backup running back. DeAndre Washington. I'll go at double-digit DK points for DeAndre Washington this week.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the big questions of the week is how do they distribute running back carries between D-Wash and Jalen Richard and Latavius? I wish I knew the answer. Yeah, I mean, D-Wash is only 3,300. He could open up a lot if you play him over Zenner. So 10 points, I'm willing to go under, but I like the call.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. He's one of my favorite guys as well. Definitely explosive, but sure, I'll take the under just to be nice.
You know what? I'm going to take the over on that. I'm a DeAndre Washington dynasty truther, so
yes!
I'll be on your side with that. We can 2v2.
Oh, man. Week 1 was terrible because no one even knew about Jalen Richard, like who this guy was, and then he had that 75-yard touchdown. We're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Jalen Richard screwed us with Arizona State too all the time when we wanted to roster DJ Foster, and
he wasn't even drafted.
Unbelievable.
Good story though for him. I'm not sure if you saw, like he said that he didn't think he was good enough to play professional football until like week 1 when he started like having some decent carries. Like, okay, I'm good enough. How does that happen? Anyways.
Yeah, that is interesting. I like him as a player. He's really good out of the backfield, but definitely tilting for DeAndre Washington.
I want some Devontae Adams. I mean, I know everyone wants some Devontae Adams, but think of a way in which I can be long on him and you guys take some other players or we do some over-under on him.
Hold on. Let me
I'll take 2 wide receivers under 5K versus him.
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, sign me up for that one too. Let's nail Freedman here.
Give me.
I'm trying to be nice here.
Yeah, no, yeah. We finally guilted you into it. The playoffs.
All right, I'll take Devontae Parker and Eli Rogers.
I'm gonna take Sterling Shepard, my boy, this week, and Devontae Parker.
Okay.
I'm going to go in on Devontae Adams.
That's right. I got Kitchen on my side. You guys already lost.
After hearing those other two wide receivers, they brought up us. Just give me Devontae Adams and the couple touchdowns he's going to score.
He's either going to score him or he's going to drop him. I mean, we have a pretty good sample that.
The important part is
he's going to have a couple opportunities in the end zone to catch a touchdown.
Yeah. Let's see
who else? Let me see if I can get.
I want to be on Lamar Miller a little bit if anybody wants to.
We definitely don't want any part of this Seattle running game.
I mean, it's been just so bad. I don't know what to say about Thomas Rawls at this point. I mean, even against San Francisco 49ers before he got hurt or whatever, Rawls had 8 carries for 14 yards. Like, how does that even happen?
it was bad.
It's bad. I really don't know what's going on. I mean, he was so awesome last year. I don't know. Is it maybe that the offensive line is just so bad that Rawls is like unplayable at this point?
I mean, I think that's a big part of it.
If you guys
isn't back, right?
Correct. CJ Process remains out. Yeah, it's gonna be Alex Collins or Rawls. They say Rawls is gonna start.
Yeah, I just don't know how you would do Lamar Miller unless you gave like a point threshold over under. Like,
okay, let me see what we have for Lamar Miller right now. We have a 16.1. That's a lot.
You want to take Jay Ajayi over him? Kitchen?
I prefer Lamar Miller.
I prefer Lamar Miller as well. So maybe we can get in.
Oh, I think Freedman wants Ajayi, so I think we might be able to.
Okay,
I'll do it. I'm not feeling super strong on it, but I like Ajayi getting the touches.
I mean, you have the injury equity on Lamar Miller. He's like 50-50 to leave the game.
Yeah, like I feel like at a minimum, I know that Ajayi is going to get touches.
Look at Levitan trying to just basically reverse mush that. All right, give me the opposite side of that. Give me Lamar Miller.
Yeah, Lamar Miller, man. This is the spot.
I agree. I like Lamar Miller a lot.
All right, any more tight end action here? I think we've hit all the other positions.
The only thing we didn't talk about is defense. Let's hammer out defense real quick. And the Texans are the chalk, right?
Right. They're also the most expensive. I mean, and I think Oakland will be popular because they're relatively cheap and they're facing Brock. So I kind of like Green Bay a little bit. I think the Giants' offensive line, especially with Eric Flowers, is susceptible and playing at home in Lambeau. I don't know. I feel like it could be a spot for the Giants D. So I would for the Packers D. I would take Packers D over anybody except for Houston.
Oh, I'll take that.
I'll give equity. You can have Seattle.
Yeah, I'll take Seattle.
Seattle.
Okay, I'll take Seattle.
There we
That's
go.
an easy one. Thanks.
I'll take the Texans versus two defenses if anyone wants it.
Oh, yeah. Give me Seattle and Green Bay.
Okay, can I just say something? Anytime Pete feels confident enough in a defense to give 2 away, he always wins.
It's always the Broncos. It's always the Broncos, though.
Yeah, okay.
I can only predict the Broncos when they're going to smash.
Give me Seattle and Pittsburgh against Houston.
All right. I think I'm giving up equity there for sure, but gotta stay on brand here. Light some.
I'll do. Yeah, I'm going to do Seahawks and Pittsburgh.
All right.
Levitan, you jumping on that?
I already took Seattle and Green Bay.
Oh, okay. All right. Any others? Any other last? I feel like we need like one more quarterback prop here. Like I feel like we hit the big guys, but we didn't hit some of the smaller ones.
Anybody? I'll take.
I'll take Russ Wilson over 20 DK points if anybody wants that. I know that you guys weren't really high on Russ Wilson, but I think he's going to be fine this week.
Yeah, I'll take under.
Or I'll take under.
I'll take over.
I think Detroit is going to try to play slow. I don't know if they're capable of it, but they're going to try to play slow.
Yeah, that's their style for sure, is playing slow.
Yeah.
Their style now wasn't the style of the first half of the season.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford was an MVP consideration with those dink and dunk passes. Not anymore.
Nobody's going to – like Golden Tate's going to be super low owned, huh?
Yes. Going up against his old city. Going up for all the donuts. Remember that donut shop he broke into?
You love this kitchen.
He also broke into the home of
Russell Wilson.
I don't even remember this. What happened?
He stole Russell Wilson's landing spot.
He definitely used Russell Wilson's toothbrush.
Oh, wow.
It's a nightmare.
I think Russell Wilson's doing just fine, though.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Kitchen, this is why you were on the show.
That's right.
Before we end the show, I'd just like to shout out Evan Silva.
Yes. Oh, Evan Silva. Guys, it was a pleasure. It was. I love hanging out. One of the best things about what we do is I feel like you have not worked, and that's what this hour felt like. Just felt like hanging out with a bunch of guys that are intellectually inferior to me. So
That's true. That is definitely true.
Yeah.
hang out with you guys.
Kitchen's got his prime serious spot to get to right now. Coming up at, what is it, Kitchen, 12 or 1 a.m.?
No, it's 12 a.m. 12 a.m. Eastern. They gave us the good spot.
Levitan with it all.
The best part was the station manager reaching out to me. He's like, hey, do you want to do week 17 game day? And I'm like, yes, I would. He's like, okay, we got you penciled in for 7 a.m. on week 17. I looked at the calendar. I'm like, wait, that's January 1st.
There's a reason he's asking you.
Yeah, it's 6 a.m. my
Yeah.
time. So maybe one day I'll get off the schneid, but whatever.
All right.
That was fun. Definitely
David,
fun time, boys.
Thanks for being on the show. Everyone be sure to follow him on Twitter at SoccerDave, and also follow Adam and Pete at Adam Levitan and CSURAM88. And you can follow me at Matt F. The Oracle. I'm Matthew Freedman, and this has been the Daily Fantasy Flex podcast for the wild card round of the 2016-17 NFL playoffs. If you'd like the show, please rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Podbean, and don't forget to check out our NFL dashboard with positional breakdowns and matchup previews out by Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck, and we will see you next week.